Welcome to the Limbo story interpretation video. If you've clicked on this link, congratulations, you care about my opinion. You've won the grand prize. The prize is this video. Yeah, sorry. If you haven't watched the main Limbo episode, you should click right here to see. No, not down there. Who's gonna click a button down there? You can barely even see that. Up in the middle. In the middle, you're fired. There we go. Thank you. Click that. Okay, if you're still here, you mean to be here, so let's get to it. Before we think about the specific story of this boy, we have to consider the world the game takes place in. It appears to be, as the title would suggest, a limbo world, somewhere that souls that are in between damnation and salvation go. However, instead of a religious limbo, this seems to be more of a secular place without any gods or overtly supernatural entities, similar to a Greek underworld or the afterlife put forward by Philip Pullman in the His Dark Materials trilogy. That is, more of a gray, alternate world where the dead go to exist away from the living, as opposed to a divine afterlife. The Greek connection is shown in the fairly straightforward reference of the boy crossing a river to begin the journey in a boat that seems to propel itself, similar to the boat that carries people across the river Styx into the underworld in Greek mythology. The forest area at the beginning of the game, with its castaway boys and evil creatures, seems to be the gateway or entrance into this limbo world, with a later automated lonely machine section representing the cold, impartial judgment put upon those souls that go through the entrance and delve deeper. Now that we have an idea about the possible nature of the world of the game, let's jump into the story of the boy. The start screen itself gives us many clues to the potential story of the game. If you look carefully, you can see a treehouse and two sets of flies. The group of flies on the right under the ladder seems larger, louder, and more active, implying that whatever they're flying over has been dead much longer than the other. This, to me, would imply the sister met with some sort of demise while playing in the treehouse with her brother, assuming this chronology based on the fact that the brother is trying to find her and not the other way around. Potentially it was an accident, though I think that it's more likely that he killed her, for reasons I'll explain later. Since there seems to be a large difference in the decomposition of the bodies, we can presume the boy stayed with his sister's body for a long time, potentially days, wallowing in grief and guilt until deciding, in a childlike naivety, to take his own life to try to follow her and get her back. Hence the less decomposed body to the left being under the edge of the treehouse, the only place he could have thrown himself off to follow his sister. As a child, he is too innocent to be damned, but his suicide and potential murder means that neither can he be saved. As such, after his suicide, he wakes up in Limbo to face the trials there and be judged, and see if he can be purified. He meets the spider, which, again following the Greek tradition, is the monster guardian of the gate to the underworld, just like Cerberus, the three-headed dog. It focuses more on the main character more than the other boy, since you committed a more grievous act before arriving and must be tested more as a result. As you can see when it kills you in the game, it simply throws aside your body as opposed to eating you, which is something that you would normally associate with a predator like a spider. This clearly shows that it isn't killing you out of malice, well, at least before you start ripping off its appendages, or because of a predatory instinct, but simply as another trial to pass. Since children are essentially the only ones that are still innocent and would not be clearly deserving of damnation or salvation, the Limbo world is populated fairly exclusively by children. The children that we see throughout the game are ones that were too scared of going on to the machine world to be judged, and so they remain at the gates of the underworld out of fear of going forward, choosing instead to stay and avoid the entrance's guardian, the spider. Since they are staying behind, they're in the process of losing their souls, which is why their eyes don't show like the main characters do. The dead bodies lying around are those that have entirely given up hope and let go of their souls, dying in the Limbo realm. The boys' fear, both of the spider and of going forward, extends to anything outside of themselves, and so they set up complex traps to scare other lost children away and to try to defend against the spider. The main character runs through these characters mercilessly, crushing boys into their own traps, tricking them into spike pits, and killing the spider by ripping off its legs and throwing its body into a pit. While he isn't technically killing anything, as they're all souls of spirits and can presumably not be killed once they're already in the afterlife, he does show a disregard for any life and all that stands between him and his goal. Besides, I suspect, being a metaphor for the consequences of the progression of the player forward at any cost, at a story level it seems to suggest a killer instinct in the boy, which, combined with the extra focus given to him by the spider and the apparent fear of him by the lost boys, makes me think that he is in Limbo for more grievous sins than simply his suicide. Now, as the boy leaves the forested entrance to the underworld, we begin to see new areas signified by more structures and machinery. There stop being dead bodies in the background as the trials he faces becomes more personal and tailored to his eventual judgment as worthy of salvation from Limbo or not. The change is most deeply signified by the hotel, being, as it is, a symbol of impermanence and transition. The next puzzles and their mechanics all seem to deal with the boy losing control in some form or another, such as the gravity puzzles, the puzzles involving automatic machinery and complex timing, and the brainworm puzzles. These appear as his trials because he, as a killer and a violent person, presumably relished in the control it gave him over others in his life, and even in his death as he killed the spider and the lost boys at the entrance to the afterlife. And so he needs to be broken of his need for control to be worthy of salvation. As he breaks through the glass of the last puzzle, he has finally tipped the scales, changing himself and his attitudes enough to be worthy of salvation. He has literally broken through Limbo into the beginning of his soul becoming saved. And of course, in his salvation, salvation waits his sister, seeming to be kneeling in sorrow, possibly praying, over an area very similar to where they had both died, and it can be assumed she is hoping for her brother's soul to return. As he approaches, she jumps slightly out of still the slight fear of her brother who, to be fair, probably killed her, and also from not expecting another soul to be waiting in this place between Limbo and the world of the worthy, where she was taken when she died. Her soul still remains there, with only her consciousness traveling to this place, which is why her eyes are also dark like the Lost Boy's. After the screen goes dark, the boy and the sister travel together into the land of salvation, and he probably apologizes for killing her, because... dick move, bro. Thanks for watching! Do you agree with my opinion? Do you disagree? Discuss my interpretation in the comment section below, and subscribe, or I will have the Limbo Kid kill your sister. Yup.